Ladies and gents, this is the Pop Culture Podcast. Tyson Popplestone here. Hope your week is treating you well. Hey, we're backing last week's interview up with another one today. I'm joined by a good friend of mine. I've known him for a little bit over 10 years now. We used to work together at City Life Church as youth pastors and run some school programs together. Man, we caused some trouble, is what I'm going to say, together. Back in those days, Brendo often talked about how much he would like to, well, first of all, how much he appreciated whiskey and a good drink of alcohol, which was always an interesting conversation to have in the church staff offices because it's not one you hear that loudly and proudly in that situation. But one thing I knew about Brendo was if he got to choose the life that he wanted to live, if he wanted to do whatever he could for work, it'd be open a whiskey bar. So I was inspired to see him take the step recently. And the reason I wanted to get him on here again is because I think so many people that I speak to have these dreams that they would like to go out and have a crack at. It's a little bit scary saying goodbye to a solid paycheck and a regular income. And I wanted to find out how Brendo developed the courage to do it. It's a good conversation. More than that, we talk about distraction and how we try and navigate the world of iPhones and internet and everything else that can steal our attention away from the things that we really care about. Talk about virtue signaling and why people do it and what they're trying to achieve from it. Specifically here in Australia in the AFL, it's gone to a whole new level. So that was an interesting conversation. I'm not going to give too much more away. We go down a few rabbit holes and it was fun. So I'll just let you discover it with us. This is myself and my good friend, Brendan Cavanagh. Enjoy. Dude, we're on. It has been far too long in between drinks, which I feel like is a common theme to kickstart our conversations. I reckon maybe for the last 3 months, I've been saying, hey, let's do a Zoom call.
Well, I was thinking about it, man, and I think we actually had a bit of a miscommunication. I said that we're both going to move out of the city towards the mountains, and I think you heard me say the ocean. So I moved out an hour out of the city towards the mountains, and you moved out the other direction.
This is why we shouldn't make plans, and I should just give it to Jesse, and you should just give it to Kate, and then we both would have been happily at a mountain because I love kangaroos and everything that surrounds your property. But the fact is, I also love where I am, but unfortunately, where you are and where I am, you need a small plane to get there.
Maybe there's a business in that. We could do chartered flights between Hillsville and
All right, you
Port.
start it.
Was it Port Lonsdale, isn't it?
Point Lonsdale.
I can't
And that's
remember.
just
I remember that.
it's a good fact. But the fact that you finished it with, isn't it, made me think it's probably been too long since you've been here. It has been a while, man. But we were just saying before I hit record that there's probably a very valid reason. And you were saying it's 8 a.m. now. And you just told me that you got to bed at 2 a.m. last night. I thought I was a hero because I went to bed at midnight and I thought, mate, Brendo is going to feel so valued based on the fact I'm going to make this podcast happen. It turns out I'm the lucky one. What, fill us in on the story there. Obviously, I know you've kickstarted your own business and it's been heaps of fun and you just recommend it to everyone.
I think the opposite is true. Never start your own business. Keep the desk job. Keep the RSI and the wrist from sitting in front of a computer and the bad eyesight. I think that's a better price of entry into life than starting your own business, dealing with council, dealing with liquor license commission, dealing with another bar owner down the road, sending a building inspector after you when you haven't even opened your business yet. It's good. It's good. Start your own business. I can guarantee it's going to be a lot of not fun.
What happened? What's the story there?
So doing the build, right? So for those listening, I've opened my own bar, Cavanagh's Whiskey and Ale House, and we had our first day yesterday. And we're at probably 70% to 100% capacity from the moment the doors opened at 1 until they closed at technically 11 o'clock. There may have been a few hanger-ons that we had to kick out at the end of the night. So that was really fun. That was a culmination of about 3 months of, I don't want to say blood, sweat, and tears, but there was a combination of that. I think by the time we got there, I just wanted to sit in the corner and cry. And going, why did I do this? Why did we do this? And the fun fact is the same day that we got the keys to the site that we're leasing, we also found out we were pregnant. So we're like, sweet, why not? I've quit my job. Kate's still working full time. And now we've got 2 babies on the way. This is good. This bloody well better work. So
wait, what's 2? Oh, 2 babies. Sorry, I thought I missed that you guys are having twins. I see what you mean.
Yeah, sorry, a little bit cryptic there. I need a bit more coffee. So, I mean, where do you want me to start with the story? So I'm doing the build, right? And that's a whole nother saga in and of itself. The liquor licensing, that's another saga. But everyone's warned me about this bloke down the road that runs a venue. I won't name it, but I'm going to tell everybody about it. It's known as the venue in Hillsville. It's a late night venue. It's open till 3 a.m. Hillsville has a bar that's open till 3. It has a stripper pole in it, And it's known as a place that you go if you're underage or you're overage. I went in there as a little bit of just a recon, suss out the competition. As I'm walking in, there's a couple of, I kid you not, 80-year-old women. This is at midnight in Healesville on a Friday night. There's a couple of 80-year-old women, full purple rinse and everything, perfume that like made me choke, walking up the stairs. I'm like, is this the right place? Everyone's like, yeah, this is the spot. I'm like, do you know not? Okay, the joke about it being where you go to like overage people pick up underage people, I'm getting that. Turns out they just had a Beatles cover band in. And I get downstairs and I see the stripper pole, the carpet, the sticky floors, and there's this full esche, I believe that's the word that you meant to use, kid, say, shave sides, mullet. He would have been lucky to be 16. I kid you not. And he's standing there at the bar, ordering his UDL or vodka cruise or whatever. And next to him is standing someone that's old enough to be his great-grandmother.
Yeah.
So the bloke that runs this joint, it's known to have kids doing cocaine off the table in open public. Not even in the bathrooms. So he takes it on upon himself to dob in everybody else. There's another local business that during COVID was trying to update their red line plans so they can have beers in the garden. They had to put the planning thing on the window. He complained. He said, no. Extra people in a beer garden and a burger joint is going to ruin the community of Healesville. These guys are just trying to hang on during COVID and he's trying to throw them under the bus. So everyone warned me about him. So I'm in there doing a bit of build, doing the full sort of to gut the venue to begin with. Big burly bloke walks in. Hey, mate, I'm so-and-so from the council. Someone said that you're doing building works without a permit. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. I'm not even open yet. And he's like, yeah, apparently you're doing structural work, pulling stuff out. Someone's dobbed you in. No guesses who. I'm like, oh, this wouldn't be old mate from down the road from place. And he's like, oh, I didn't say that. You guessed it in one shot. I didn't say anything. But, mate, yeah, so he had a look, and my heart is now just going a million miles an hour because if he slaps down and says, no, you actually do need a building permit, I have to shut down the whole site and I can't do anything, and I've got to go through council. That's going to be a 3-6 month process. I'm cooked. I've already quit my job at this point. I've got a kid on the way. And old mate from down the road's tried throwing me under the bus already, and I haven't even opened my doors. Good news is he looks around. He's like, is that wall new? I'm like, nah, I've just ripped the plaster off. He's like, oh, so you're not doing any building works? I'm like, oh, sorry, structural work. I'm like, no, I'm just painting the walls, putting floors down. Nothing structural. He's like, he stuffed us around again, this guy. And then goes on to, yeah. So he walks out, I'm all in the clear. But that's what happens when you're running your own small business in a town.
Dude,
because he's worried that my whiskey and ale house is going to eat into his market. I'm like, mate, keep the 16 and 80-year-olds. I don't want them.
Fair, but I've never seen a 16-year-old or an 80-year-old at an ale house. Sounds like he's got an interesting reputation. It also sounds good that you got one of the, I don't know, what's he called? A building inspector. I didn't know those guys came reasonable. I thought they just came in to shut down venues, and that was just, it was like a parking inspector. You can't talk your way out of a fine.
And that's why I shit myself when he walked in. So
what would that have meant? So at this stage, you had, a couple of months until you were planning to open, and it would have stretched out to potentially 6.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. And how long did this conversation take? Was this a couple of day period, or was this like literally he came in and he's like, oh, you're fine?
Half an hour.
Thank God.
The whole time, I'm like, so we're good? He's like, oh, mate, you're fine. You're fine. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Man, talk about stress of like, that's the only thing I reckon is, I'm not saying that wouldn't happen in a big city, but it is interesting living in a town like, even Point Lonsdale. It's a smaller kind of a town. You start to get that vibe after a little while where you start to recognize people, and it doesn't take long for certain reputations to start creeping into the public domain. It sounds like this guy over a course of a couple of years has maybe created himself a little bit of a title. Interesting that despite the fact he's got 16-year-old, 80-year-olds and public cocaine use on the bench, he's got the courage to go after local business, because it sounds as though it wouldn't be too hard for the tides to turn.
Exactly right. I was like, mate, I'm ready to go full Frankston on you, or just go full undercover and just go down there, grow my mullet back and go in with a little camera and just record some of the usage and go, oi, mate, leave me alone.
What happens in a situation like that? Do you address it with him, or you just let it fly and try to have nothing to do with him? I feel like me and my big mouth, I wouldn't be able to help myself. I would have to go down and at least go, mate, had an interesting conversation with a building inspector. He didn't mention it was you, but I got the vibe it was.
Nah, I think I'm going to leave it for now. But if I do see him, I think it will be very hard to not bring it up because he's reported people to council for putting a ladder out the front to change a light bulb on their sign.
Yeah, we're dealing with it. We're dealing with it.
I don't think you can reason with people like that. Kind of just try and keep away and stay off their radar.
It's so funny
It's
for someone who calls himself fairly agreeable. I feel like in those moments I can't help myself. I remember once I used to work at a bottle shop back in uni, and I wasn't the best employee.
Some reptiles coming through there.
Oh, bro, my favorite one was the lady who met her husband. She now had 2 kids because he held up his phone number through his car window and she wrote it down. That was how they initiated the conversation. And 6 months later, they had their first kid on their way, and another year later, she used to come in for a wild turkey. She was on the strong stuff. She was built different, but
and their kids are now the ones doing the coke off the tables in Hillsville.
That's right. And her mother's the one with the blue hair at the Beatles cover. Yeah, dude.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, it's so funny. But I remember that particular. It was funny because I was working at City Life Church where we met at the time, and I was on the City Life website after we had been told not to use the internet during work hours. Anyway, the boss came in, saw me on there, and from then on, they just had an issue with me, obviously, because they'd been pretty clear about the fact don't use the internet. But I was like, mate, there's nothing else to do. It's so boring. It's just sit here and meditate for 7 hours otherwise, and that wasn't an option. Anyway, a year and a half later, I applied for a job at a bottle shop in Melbourne when I first moved down there, and put my resume in. I asked them to be a reference. They said yes. I didn't get the job at this bottle shop. And the guy called me back, goes, mate, you didn't get it? I said, can I ask why? He goes, yeah, you had a bad reference. And I said, a bad reference? What happened there? They go, yeah, look, mate, I shouldn't usually tell you, but Carol from the bottle shop gave you a bad reference. So I called Carol. I go, hey, just to clarify, you didn't give me a bad reference, did you? She goes, that's very unprofessional by that man to tell you that I did. No, I didn't, for what it's worth.
Oh, come on.
Come on, Carol. I've caught you flustered. And, dude, that stuff drives me crazy.
When you actually confront them on their, I feel like, again, I know it's an overused term, the keyboard warrior stuff is we just shoot stuff out into the ether and go, don't have to deal with the consequences. But people actually get the consequences in their face, like, oh, shit, I maybe shouldn't have said that. It's like, yeah, you're not going to say it to my face. Shut the hell up.
Seriously, man. I like people so much more in real life, I've realized. Because during COVID, I was a loudmouth, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't like me as a result. Yeah. And then I was looking at this chick's Facebook status, and it was back in the day, middle of COVID, where she's like, all right, I'm happy for you not to get vaccinated as long as you're happy if you get sick, not to get treatment from the hospital. And I was like, this chick's a bitch. Like, who? Anyway, I met her at comedy a couple of months later. So lovely. So lovely. I really like her. And I looked at her, and in my head, I'd convinced myself I hated her guts based on that. I've realized that face-to-face is so much better because all the people I think it's very rare for people I hate online to correlate into hating them in real life. Because I can be a pussy as well. I'm all brave on Instagram, and then someone addresses me. I go, yeah, but what I was trying to say, what I meant was...
Yeah, how do you handle that? Because I saw a little blow up on one of your posts recently where I think people just missed the joke completely. We'll call you an irresponsible father and all this. And I'm like... And I actually had locked and loaded a response. And I'm sorry I didn't go in to defend your honor, man. I totally just went, I can't... these people are unreasonable. There's if they can't get that this is a joke, my little comment back going, "Oi, dickheads, leave them alone." And
dude,
yeah, you think that seriously, come on.
It was mind blowing. I thought I couldn't believe because I said to Jessie, I go, babe, look, I understand that this makes me look like a horrific father. I understand it makes me look ridiculous. She goes, yeah, but you're also just having fun. You're mucking around.
It's a joke. It's funny.
If people don't know this has got sugar sprinkled on it, they need to develop some social cues. So I'm like you, man. I read those comments, and there's a small part of me. At the start, I said to Jess, I was like, babe, these people are firing up. Look at this. And then after about 25 comments, I was like, okay, this is why people do the old famous post and ghost, because you can read too much into it, and you're dealing with a muppet.
An absolute muppet. I wanted to go to them. Have you heard some of his other jokes? Have you heard the one about grapes? Do some research, get an idea of where the bloke's coming from.
Dude,
but I think it makes me wonder. I'm like, is it at what point did the Queen go, you know what, I'm out. Grim Reaper, you can have your appointment now. I put you off. Yeah, all right, I'm out. I'm done. What of the last 6 months do you think it was when the Queen went, yeah, I'm done? I'm done. I could hang on for another 50 years if I wanted, but it's just too much. Do you think it's like that type of stuff, or is it
It's a bloody good question, man. That's the
breastfeeding
first time.
males? Is that what it was that made her go?
Dude.
Did she read that and just go? Oh. And then the next article was vegans are saying that men should stop having sex if they eat meat. Okay.
Oh man, I can't.
The shit she would have seen in her lifetime.
Seriously,
I'm surprised she held on this long.
Imagine how much easier it would have been just to receive legitimate hate mail, where it had a stamp, came into the Buckingham Palace.
Nope.
Her servant brought it to her. She opened it and she goes, "You're a dickhead." It's like, well, you're a dickhead because I don't know how much of the day that took up. But the fact you had to buy a stamp for that with my face on it to send it to me,
it's a lot of effort.
It's a lot of effort, and I'm not a dickhead. Like, there's a lot of people that think I'm lovely. You know what I mean? It's a wild world, man. I actually found that really interesting. So for those guys, for everyone listening, it was just a little joke that I put on about my son getting a psychedelic mushroom, and it was very. I thought it was very clear that it was a joke. And just the amount of hate that I got from this little video, 60-second clip, was staggering. Also really helped the podcast numbers, just as a side point, because I looked at the numbers of the people watching this video and the correlation. I was like, maybe I should do some more videos like this, because this, and it's one of those classic ones where anyone who actually listened to the podcast is like, I see what he's done. He's just taken the piss. Because he's given the premise of, hey, here's a little story that I'm working with. But I love when you take context away and you post it to people who don't know you, and don't really care about understanding the fact of understanding the idea of humor. That just makes it so fun to me. And also, what I've actually learned to or come to realize through that particular post is it's actually so much fun. Like, I've got to be careful not to become addicted to the comments, because half the time I team up with those people. I'm like, I kind of agree. I think what you said is
I am irresponsible. You should take my child off. He's all yours.
Even my closest friends tell me that. I feel like maybe you understand me better than you realize. This has been a theme in my life for a long time.
I've been trying to be irresponsible so somebody would come in and take him away.
Oh, dude. But what also helps is Jessie's a gun with that kind of stuff. She's like, you know what? Get stuffed. Who cares? I go, babe, should I take it down? She's like, no. Get stuffed.
That's so good.
Mate. So I feel like having someone, if I had a wife who was a little bit like, oh, baby, you've offended a couple of people, maybe take it down. I'd be like, oh, actually, you're really right. Yeah, I should be more careful. But Jessie's like, nah, stuff. I couldn't care. Jessie was the chick. She was funny. Like, even in the middle of lockdown, when I was just keeping it on the very low key that I hadn't been vaccinated because it was so scary. Jessie was like, yeah, no.
Hasn't that changed now?
Dude, what a story that is. I can't even be bothered talking about it because it's just so. It's so preposterous how much the story's changed.
Yeah,
anyway, I said I can't
still boasting about. Yeah, I know we can't help ourselves. The badge of how many vaccines I've had. I think they're the same type of people that post online that want to virtue signal through their vaccination status. Clear couples wearing masks in the car while they're driving around still. Wearing masks outside on Main Street all the time, young, healthy people outdoors, masking up. I'm like, is it just to show everybody that you're doing the right thing, but you also just jaywalked? So,
dude, virtue
where do you draw one?
It's so hot right now. Virtue signaling so hot right now. I'll talk about that in a minute, but before I do, you've just opened a little can of worms. I spoke to a friend yesterday, keen golfer, and he went out for a round of 18 holes, and he got teamed up with a doctor. So it was him and a doctor. And isn't that crazy? So your reaction right now is...
Got a story for you about that as well, by the way.
Like, isn't it crazy that you say the word doctor at the moment, and at least my group of friends is like, oh, these guys probably aren't the most responsible people to talk to about this issue. I've
heard.
Dude, so this guy was saying, went out for 18 holes. He goes, hey, doc, just a question for you. What are your thoughts on the vaccines and everything? He's like, yeah, obviously, you got to do your part and, get the vaccine. And he goes, how many? And he's like, oh, well, you got to keep yourself topped up. Bro, I cross my heart, I'm not inflating this story one little bit. My mate asked the doctor how many vaccines he's had now, how many shots. Bro, he's recently had his 6th. He's up to 6 now. He's gone for a record. And I'm pretty sure that's above and beyond even the health recommendations of our wise and wonderful leader. That's a lot.
I got nothing. Does he turn into like a bat at that point? Like if he's had that many, like what's the
This is the thing,
what?
and I like the fact that you can speak about it a little bit more openly now because this has always been my stance. I don't have a problem being vaccinated against something that I know works for a fact. I just don't like being mandated to have something with the threat of a job taken away when we all know that, okay, though you say it's completely safe, and for majority of people, thank God it is, and it has been, and it is. But for the couple of people who got a negative response to it, like that's who I get angry for. It's like I'm so relieved that
A mate of mine got myocarditis.
yes,
And he's my age, 34, healthy.
this is the thing,
And his heart went whoop as he's trying to put the kid into the car. And then when he talked to the doctor about it, and because his partner's very on the similar train to you, he had to get it for his job. He's the main breadwinner, so he's like, I don't really have a choice. I have to.
mm-hmm.
She didn't, and he did. And then this was the result. And to the point where down the track they said, "Oh, it looks like you do have a heart condition. You shouldn't get the next vaccine." And he's like, "I didn't have this heart condition until I had the other one." So in talking with their doctor, they're like, "So, like, do you guys record this and process it?" And the doctor went, "No." And they're like, "Why not?" And he's like, "Well," and kind of just gave a non-answer. Another friend, same situation, and the doctor was blunt enough to go, "No, we can't. It puts us on a radar. We get scrutinized. It's not worth our hassle." These are like, this isn't a friend of a friend of a friend. These are people I've known for most of my life, and I'm hearing these stories, and I'm just like, what? I'm not even putting a tinfoil hat on. Like, it's just like, it's wild.
Oh, dude, it's so funny. I was laughing last night. It's funny how your reputation spreads, and I haven't helped myself because I've just been such a loudmouth through the whole thing because I've just been like,
Loved it. Great.
It surprised me. I got to calm down. But I was at a comedy gig last night, and there's a guy there, Raf, his name, a great guy, works for the government. But he's just, I get the vibe. I don't know this for a fact. I get the vibe he's on a different page to me completely, which is fine. But yesterday he was telling us that Parliament was closed down because of no. He was just telling me that Parliament got locked down yesterday, and I was like, dude, what happened? And I'd never spoken to this guy about any form of politics before, and he goes, dude, apparently one of the members of Parliament was scrolling through your Instagram feed and just felt unsafe, so they had to lock it down. And I thought, yeah, well played. But it was a bomb threat, really. But I had to laugh because I just thought, isn't that funny that like the amount of people in the comedy scene now that I'm apparently a hippie anti-vaxxer. It's amazing how many people see what you post on your story, which is a weird thing to have, which a weird thing to say to a bloke with his kid 3/4 vaccinated. I say 3/4 because I hit pause for a while because the doctors who were recommending all the other stuff were also recommending these ones. So I thought, let me just do a little bit more research because I've just been trusting you the whole way through.
It's so muddy, and it just makes it's so hard to sort through what's woke, what's genuine, what's virtue signaling, what's people just saying stuff to cover their ass. Yeah, it's tricky, whether it be going through Instagram. Like, how is it on the comedy scene? And like, is it sort of like your people that are not? I think it's what does my head in. It's like the same people that are like pro-abortion, my body, my choice, are like, you have to get the vaccine, you have no choice. It's like, well, what? Like, doesn't that principle apply to this as well? My body, my choice. If I want to get it, like. Yeah, how do you have it both ways? I'm so confused.
I get really confused. I get really confused by that one as well. The abortion thing's a confusing one to me because I had a mate say to me the other day, because he's sort of on my side of the fence when it comes to the vaccine stuff, and he said to me, he's like, "Well, you're obviously pro-abortion then," and I was like, "Well, I feel like those two. First of all, I'm the wrong person to speak to about it. Second of all, the term abortion is a very broad stroke brush. Like there's a lot of different factors that go into that one. But thirdly, I feel like it's a hard thing to compare because, and I guess this is where it comes down to a debate, because if you genuinely believe that that's just like a little additional feature in your body for that time and it's not a life, then go for it. Like I don't care if you want to get your bicep taken out either. But I guess it comes down to that conversation of like, all right, what are we dealing with here? So I feel like on the conversation of abortion, I'm a little bit more like, I feel like that's a hard one to compare to this because one's a different life and one is you're right. I don't know. It's just a weird, because that correlation's come up a lot lately, and I'm like, oh, far out. Now I have to think about this. Like, there's so many smarter people than me that you want to talk to about these issues. Why are you asking me my opinion?
Especially when it comes to like, yeah, my wife's pregnant, and I'm like, man, we are useless as men. What do we do to help? We start the process, and now it's like, and we found out, we're having a girl, and we're like, and I'm like, cool. So that means that you raise her, right? Like, I didn't have a sister. Like, I've got no idea. So I'm even like, I feel like now as a male, I'm even more useless. Like, so I just like start doing stuff when there's boys hanging around. Like, is that my role? Like, what do we do?
Oh, dude,
Joking,
that
people,
would.
by the way.
I know, no, I know that would be such a weird. That would be such a weird like headspin. I felt the same even
I was about to say,
with.
you got any tips for a guy that's about to be a dad
Well,
and have a
dude,
young kid?
honestly,
It's like, I can't breastfeed him. I can't
oh,
carry it. Like, I can't, like, what?
I've actually, bro, I've actually got an awesome book for you. It's actually written. I've got it up there. It's a little bit out of arm reach. Otherwise, I would show you. It's called The Intentional Father. It's written by a guy. He's a pastor in New York. I don't know if you know John Tyson.
Oh, know the name. Yep.
Yeah, John Tyson. So he wrote this book, and I think it's more specifically related to raising boys. But he goes on in it about how he's working on a book with his wife about raising girls as well. And for me, it's been one of the most helpful tools. So the whole book is about essentially preparing your kid for becoming a man in this instance, or in my instance. And it's talking about how cultures throughout time have had an initiation process which signals, okay, you're going from being a child to a man. And there's a clear crossover point that involves rituals, involves routines, and involves like a form of training, which has just been lost in our culture. And obviously it's not just within the Christian scene that this has been a thing in the past,
Oh,
but just any spirituality, any form of any culture, I guess, has had its own form of it. And for me, just reading through that and reading through his mistakes has been really helpful. But dude, I had the best conversation with the bloke on the podcast yesterday. Mark Dobson, he's like what do you call it? Like a mindset coach, essentially. He spoke to us in year 12 and I loved him. And since then I've sort of followed his stuff. And he's 49, but he's got 2 kids, 3 and 18 months. And he goes, dude, I feel horrible because it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm also really unhappy. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, why? He's like, because my whole life's been about me. And all of a sudden it's like, I just want 5 minutes to myself. He goes, people often come up to me and say, oh, Dobbo, I bet you just miss going out for lunch by yourself. And he goes, going out for lunch? I miss taking a shit by myself. I would love to just have a shit without my daughter coming to the door going, Dad. And I'm like, bro, I hear you. And I used to get angry at people before I had a kid because I was like, you've just got no appreciation for like the capacity that you have to change your mindset. And I'm like, yeah, that's sort of true. But I also feel like what's true is it's like it's a struggle. Like me and Jessie, I feel argue more than we ever have at the moment because, well, she's 107 weeks pregnant, and also we've got a 2-week-old, and I'm not to throw the blame on her. I've been a jerk as well because I just don't handle conflict super well. I just turn into a whining bitch. So I think just having like an awareness of the fact that, all right, like there is strain, there is tiredness, and there is less time for you is the most helpful stuff that I've sort of taken away. But in saying all that, and this is what didn't make sense to me back in the day, would never, ever swap it because it's the best thing I've ever done my whole life.
isn't it funny how those things that are, the most frustrating, the most stressful, are also the most rewarding? I feel like, and I wonder your thoughts on this. If, you know, as you mentioned, like those rituals have been lost over the generations and everything's become super instant, super convenient, super meet the immediate need, and don't be uncomfortable for 2 seconds. Don't be bored for 2 seconds. And the entire, just the amount that this thing here absorbs your attention and can keep you just locked in, that you don't have 2 minutes to think to yourself, as well as all the things that are going on. And then you throw us at home for 2 years flat out. So even any little routine and community that we had just got ripped out. And I wonder how much of the bluster online is linked to people just being lost and confused. And I'm not just talking spiritually. I'm thinking routine. I'm thinking community. And that's one thing I've noticed moving out to basically a country town in Healesville is it is a community. I'm meeting Glenda from the candle shop 2 doors down, and her husband. They're amazing. They're just 3 decades older than me. And we have great chats, and they check in on each other like, hey, mate, have fun running a small business. It sucks dicks. And I'm like, wow, we just met and thank you. And they're like, oh, and have fun with your landlord. We know here. And I'm like, this is, you know what, but this is good. They're like in their own way, they're taking me under their wing and going, hey, we want to teach you. And I'm like, this is awesome. You don't get that, where we used to live, but I feel like, I don't know, do you feel like that's part of why people are like lashing out because they've lost that sense of, I don't know, not even direction, but self or help, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, it's such a good question. It's such a good question. I don't know. I think I don't know if it's all elderly people, but I notice in general, like older people who are decades older than me seem to have more interest in people who are like other people who are decades older than me. Like I look at myself sometimes and I'm like, Tyson, what, like your day just revolves around you in a lot of senses. Like obviously I make time for little Charlie boy, but a lot of the time, like if a friend knocked at my door at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, my first reaction wouldn't be probably excitement. It'd be like, oh, I've got so much I want to get done. And I was thinking about this the other day because I was like, man, what a weird schedule to have where you're working for yourself, you're doing your own thing, but unfortunately you've put yourself on like such a stringent or such a strict schedule that like one of your good mates just dropping by for a coffee is an interference rather than something to be celebrated. And I don't know, I feel like that's something I notice a lot in people our age is like a real sense of, I don't know if you call it selfishness, but and I'm sure it exists in so many other people, but I notice, my mum, for example, she's 64, and the idea of like a friend just stopping in on her, like even if it was a slight inconvenience, I reckon she would get over it so quickly because she's like, well, this is like part of life that should be celebrated. This is cool, spending time with friends, having a coffee, having a laugh. I sometimes feel like I get my priorities muddled up. But you held up your phone before, and that's one thing that I get my priorities muddled up with all the time. It's like, all right, I've got a few jobs written down that I want to do today. Why am I watching Theo Von tell funny jokes on YouTube right now? This isn't part of the plan. Like I don't know. How do you go with that kind of stuff? Because I know this is kind of we're dancing a few different fields here, but just thinking about distraction, thinking about interference. That's one thing that I often wrestle with and being a perfectionist with time in a lot of things that I do. I probably overanalyze it. I'm like, don't cut myself enough slack just for going down a rabbit hole for 15 minutes or an hour. But yeah, the phone distraction, the internet distraction, like there's just constantly something to offer you a dopamine hit if you could just find it.
And that's kind of what I was alluding to before. I wonder how intertwined all these things are that we're touching on, and all these anxieties isn't the right word, but all these, I don't know, points of contention in our world at the moment. And not to try and solve the world's problems by any stretch, and I've noticed a difference since building this business from scratch physically, and then also in different arenas, building the socials for it. I haven't had time during the day to be plugged in and checking my Google News feed and seeing what's going on in the world. So, when someone mentioned that a kid died at a roller coaster at Royal Melbourne Show, I'm like, what? I didn't hear about that. And they're like, how have you not heard about that? The Queen, I didn't hear about it for like a day after. I'm like, oh, there you go. Purely because I've physically been removed from this because I've been physically way too busy to give it. But what I was getting to before is, that thinking of being a perfectionist with time. I think because we are so easily distracted by this, and we're kind of trying to problem solve, and I know I do this all the time, is I'm trying to problem solve 5 things at once, and I do neither of them well, because then this pops up, and I'm such a sucker for the immediate and the urgent rather than the important, and not dealing with the important first, even if it means some of the urgent stuff. And then, because the perfection is, I need to solve it. I don't want that to fall over. But by dealing with that immediate fire, I'm neglecting this one over here. I'm not processing that one fully. So it's not a fully processed thought. It's not a fully processed emotion or plan or anything. So everything kind of gets half-baked. And they're all kind of a bit shit.
Yeah, man.
As opposed to doing something. And then the perfection is like, I didn't do that well enough. I didn't do that one well enough. Because there's so many things in our life that we're trying to solve and trying to think, how do I feel about Russia and Ukraine? It's like, my brain's full.
Yeah, dude, I've never done so much Googling as I have the last couple of months. I remember like all of a sudden now everyone's talking about the new Italian Prime Minister and everyone's got an opinion on it. And I'm like, I didn't know they had a new one. I, I don't know the story. And all of a sudden, it's interesting. I always find it interesting how quickly the times change, and you've got to be up to date with the newest thing. And we all know, like we all knew that until 6 months ago, I'd never heard anyone talk about the relationship between Russia and the Ukraine. I certainly had never really thought about it. And then all of a sudden,
some experts came out firing straight away.
Like real quick. And it's sort of blown my mind. And it's not a surprise because you see it happen each year at the Australian Open. Every armchair critic wants to tell you who's going to win and what. I go, mate, you're 40 kilos overweight. I don't think you've ever picked up a tennis racket. I don't know how you have an opinion on this, but for whatever reason, and like the same is true for me, but when it comes to politics, I don't know. It's weird how we all feel as though our opinion's valid, and it's sort of nice to listen to everyone. And then, like, all I have to do is look back on opinions that I had 6 months ago and was like, oh, dude, like, how did you say that with so much confidence? You are such a dumbass. And there's so many of those people that I come into contact with each day where in 6 months, like, they might completely disagree with what they're saying right now. It's not like it's not an opinion that they've thought about for months or years. It's just something that maybe Google or ABC told them to think.
100%. I was saying to Kate just the other day, like, the idea now, I've now quit my job. Now I've got our own small business, living in a country town. I'm like, am I allowed to say I don't care? Or is it more that, not that I don't care, it's I can't care. I don't have the capacity or the mental bandwidth to adequately care, understand, analyze, and articulate all these different things. It's like when people talk about golf, like, and in my family, it's kind of a big deal. And I try, like, I keep a real, like, surface level understanding, try and understand some of the courses and some of the tournaments and what's going on is it Abu Dhabi or the Emirates. Yeah.
Just to clarify for everyone listening, Brendan's brother-in-law is Aaron Baddeley. So that puts a little bit of context to the kind of golf. We're not talking about your local club level golfer. So that's a difficult route to navigate in that family particularly.
Like, oh, you're going to get into golf now? It's like, are you kidding me? The talk about the bar of entry. Like, nah. Could you imagine him trying to go on a golf course with me, learning to play golf?
What embarrassment.
He's got a handicap of whatever. I'm like, that would be torture. That would be cruel. That would be like me being an absolute, like, just trying to get off on the wrong foot. Like, yeah, can you drag me around a golf course for, like...
It'd be torture to both of you. I would feel sorry for both of you. He'd just want to go out and have a good round of golf. You would just want to learn the ropes.
By not getting into golf, because I think it's just better for everyone.
That's one thing I refuse to talk about in your extended family is golf and day trading, because I'm out of my depth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude. How do you go with that? Like, is it because I know Aaron's on his, he's in the latter part of his career, isn't he? Like, I don't follow the golf scene well, so I don't know if he's winning, if he's losing, if he's in, if he's out. Like, what is he doing in his golf world at the moment? Because what was it? It was 1999, I think. I remember sitting at my house in Western Australia. I was at my neighbour's house, actually, and we were watching this young up-and-coming golfer win was it the Australian Open? Is that what it's called?
Yep.
And I was like, holy, like, so it's so crazy to watch that, because I was doing fist pumps going, oh my gosh, like, this young kid just bloody beat Greg Norman. Like, who is this guy? Yeah. And then so funny that 16 years later, I'm good friends with his family and just still trying to figure out how I can get that connection. I really just want to play golf with him.
There's some people that try, like,
I can imagine.
Now that her last name's not Badley anymore. And even last night at the bar, this guy's talking, and it's not cruel. It's actually, I think it was a little bit refreshing for her, because she's having this conversation with this bloke. It's like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I run. It sounds a bit weird, but I run like an indoor golf place, virtual golf, and also was like, a little, like, he said golf pro, and whenever anybody says that, we're like, oh yeah. So what do you do? But they don't know, and it's not an arrogance thing. It's just like it's just a weird thing. You don't think that you're speaking to Aaron Badley's sister. So then she's holding this conversation, and she's just throwing stuff at him, and he's like, oh, but he's just thinking that she just knows it. And he actually went, gee, you know quite a bit about golf. Do you play? She's like, no. He's like, you really know. He was so busy talking about himself, he didn't ask any questions more. And I'm like, did you tell him? She's like, nah.
Oh,
he's going to be a regular at our bar as well. So we're like, I'm just going to tell him, babe. I'm just going to tell him. It's like, it's Aaron Badley.
Well,
she knows what she's talking about.
See
like, oh, no, because then I reckon the clinger factor, but the because they've had people like Kate's had people in her life that have tried to come into their life and befriend them purely just to get to Aaron, and that's a weird world. Those sort of like celebrity worship people that kind of just build relationships to get to somebody else. It's gross.
Yeah, bro. I haven't texted her since she changed her last name. I lost heaps of interest.
That's why you're doing this podcast now, right?
Oh, yeah,
I
it's
can
right. Is
give you his
she
number.
around? Any chance we could chat? It's very strange, man. That would be. I love the fact that she doesn't lead into conversations with that, because I lead, like whenever I meet a golfer, I lead a conversation like that. Oh yeah, so you know Aaron Baddeley? I'm pretty good friends with his sisters, and yeah. So you got any questions? You just yell out, and I'll see if I can arrange something for you. It's
100%.
yeah, man. No, that's a nerve wracking world, and
And I 100% dodge your question on like where his career's at, because I have no idea.
where you
I
played
know
that well.
that he held his PGA card for about 15 years, which is pretty long. He made the cut at a pretty good tournament, at a really good tournament, sorry, a couple of weeks ago. I think he was in like top 30. He putted amazing. So I think there's still glimpses of the old Aaron from what I've been told. Amazing putter, great things, you know, really natural swing. So what's funny is watching his kids now. So he's got 6 kids and they're all sports
Has he got
nuts.
6
They're
kids?
all practicing. Yeah.
Wow, go. He's committed to whatever he puts his mind to.
It's that focus. It's that. I mean, and you'd understand this with some of the work that you do. It's just the mindset of people that are at that elite level. People think that they've got like a pretty good mindset, and then you meet someone like them that is just, it's just all in on this thing, and it's all that singular focus and detail, and it's always on their brain. Talk about worrying about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. They have no hard drive space for that shit, because they are just singularly focused on being excellent at one thing despite everything else. It's so impressive.
I was listening to a guy last night, and I was driving back from Melbourne. It was about an hour and a half drive. It was Joe Rogan podcast. I think his name's maybe Dale Smith. Like a really good episode. Really good episode, his most recent one. And I just clicked on it for something to listen to. And this guy is a comedian and a political commentator, and he just had his finger on the pulse of everything. But from my perspective, I don't have my finger on the pulse of many things, but he had his finger on the pulse of everything in sort of American and world politics, from what I could tell. And I was thinking, man, it's pretty cool how you've just got your mind across all of these things, and Joe brings up a topic and you understand it. And I'm like apart from sounding cool, I don't know, and apart from just being an interest, I don't know what the benefit of it is. Like maybe it is more effective to be a bloke like Aaron and just narrow that bandwidth down to just being, all right, golf. Like, let's just focus, let's become elite at golf, because that's a whole project. That's a whole lifetime worth of work.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's that sort of, you know, mile wide but millimeter thin the whole way through. Like I don't know if that analogy, but you know what I mean. And I just wonder, and it makes me think, and especially now, you know, now that I don't have sort of the 9 to 5, and I know I joked about, you know, don't start your own business, keep the 9 to 5 grind going. It's only been 24 hours, but I can already feel like a weight lifted off my shoulder. That the 9 to 5 job side of things has just freed up so much space in my head to be able to think about things. And I kind of wonder, you know, if we have another conversation in months' time, what that's going to be like. And maybe I am going to have a bit more capacity now to think about these things more, because there's not, you know, dealing with work problems. I don't know.
How's it structured at the moment? Like, what do apart from the intense lead up to opening the business, what do you envision your days looking like now? Like on an average week, are you in there 7 days, or you got like Monday, Tuesday closed, or what are you sort of planning?
So, I mean, it's been in flux from yesterday, and this weekend is really going to be sort of our learning. You know, what opening hours are worthwhile. Sure, I could open at 12, but is the traffic flow and this is the other thing. Now it's my own business. If I don't open, like that's my mortgage. That's feeding my family. Like, you know, so there's this, you know, I think this instinct that I'm finding to just kind of just throw myself at it. And if I could, I'd be 24 hours, 7 days a week, just to, you know, be open, earn the money for myself. Now that, you know, I'm not earning money for somebody else, it's me and my family. So I kind of go, I want to do 7 days a week, every hour. And then, you know, getting to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, maybe I open at like 1 instead of 12. Maybe we do Thursday to Sunday instead of Wednesday to Sunday. because I've got to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's in progress, and I'm a textbook idealist. I think I'll be fine. Yeah, I'm 34. I don't have the energy of a 22-year-old hospo worker anymore. My feet are sore, my back's sore, my hands are sore. I need to kind of get my sea legs back under me doing 12, 14-hour shifts on your feet all day talking to people. But I love it. So ideally, Wednesday to Sunday, sort of 12 till 11-ish.
Yeah.
Depending on the day. But they're long days.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It'll probably get condensed a little bit. And then routine-wise, I'm really looking forward to the routine of being able to, obviously I'll be sleeping in. I'm going to be buzzing when you get home from work. I'll be falling asleep at 2 o'clock most days now. So sort of like, the comedy world life when you're gigging and getting out. And it's like, by the time you get home, you're like, I'm not wound down yet. I'm still thinking, my brain's going. And then, so probably sleep in. We're super lucky. We've got state forest 2 minutes up the road. Dog loves it. So I really love going for sort of, an hour bushwalk.
Yeah.
Their dog can run around like a headless chook. I find that super that's my meditation. Getting out in nature, going for a walk, even just chucking an audiobook on or a podcast. I feel like that helps me decompress and think through the day, get out of my own head. Otherwise, my brain's just constantly, like I said before, trying to problem solve 20 things at once and doing none of them properly. But being out in nature, going for that work, I can kind of just, it feels like and I kind of prioritize them and put them in their place and go, I can't actually solve that one. Why have I spent the last however long in mental capacity trying to solve this thing that I actually can't control that? So just leave it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's so true.
Don't waste your energy on it.
Sounds like you had a nice opening night. Like, did you say 70 to 80% full capacity?
So 70 to 100% capacity from 1 o'clock till 11-ish. Again, dealing with council to get our capacity increased because only 20 people. We had, you'd know this as an ex-teacher, we had 12 teachers walk in at 5 o'clock and all order whiskey flights, which is 3 different whiskeys each and all different ones. And it was just like,
we need a party.
This is straight in. I had to get my first drunk person out yesterday already. She came in absolutely trolleyed. Ewan was working behind the bar. It's his second night ever in hospitality. He's like, I don't think I can serve it. I look over and I'll explain for those listening. She's slouching down. She's got the full leg spread going. She's got a jacket over her head. And she's at the door going, hey, will you drive me home? We're at the Big Four. Someone stole our bikes. I'm like, oh, come on. This isn't like 6 o'clock. Like,
sounds like the lady I lost my virginity to. That's a joke. I know Jessie's downstairs shaking her head going, babe, you can't say stuff like that. And I do it every time.
Oh, yeah, it's all right. I said,
dude, that's an awkward conversation, isn't it? Like, speaking of agreeableness and disagreeableness, like, I'd find that so awkward having to go up to a drunk lady and be like, I'm so sorry, but your presence isn't worth my time. You're gonna have to.
She started making threats. I got more money than you'd make in your lifetime.
Did you mention you're married to Aaron Badley's sister?
No, I just went, yep. But hey, look, it is our first night ever. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm just trying to like get this place station. If you don't serve me, I'm going to leave you shit Google reviews. And I know people. I'm like, okay. Well, look, it is my first night here. It is my venue. She's like, what? I'm like, my name's on the door. I own this place. It's my liquor license and my livelihood on the line. She's like, and then she started touching my face. Honey, I didn't know. That's so good. Can you drive us home? I'm like, no, I don't have a car now. Sorry, I can't.
Oh, dude.
Like, dealing with drunk people. It's going to be fun.
Welcome to the party. How did Ewan find it? That's funny, man. Like, so for those of you listening, Ewan he's got his, I think, PhD in the book of Revelation.
Yep.
Last book of the Bible. So he's
Dr. Ewan Lowe.
He's Dr. Ewan Lowe. I've called him that since I first met him 12 years ago, before he'd even started studying. He just had that vibe about him. But and that's not because he's Asian. That's because of the fact he was just an intelligent guy.
Genuinely smartest person I know.
Yeah, seriously, and I take that with full respect. I'm not offended by the fact that it's not me. But he's an interesting guy. He's an interesting guy to have behind the bar. Like, how do you find night one or night? You said it was his second night ever of hospitality.
He already and Josh Godfrey was behind there as well, and they both absolutely killed it. They are already better than 99.99% of hospitality workers currently in Melbourne. Absolutely crushed it. Because to be good at hospitality, if you can talk shit and like win people over, done. Pouring beer and pouring drinks, you can teach that stuff. But I think he absolutely loved it. He kind of went into that lecturer mode because everyone's like, so I'm new to whiskey. What do I do? He's like, oh, okay. And he took them on that journey and was like, this is going to taste like this. This is going to taste like that. Because again, he's a teacher. Like he loves that sort of imparting his knowledge to people in an unpretentious, no, I want you to drink better whiskey, da. Absolutely crushed it. It was great. I'm like, sweet. This is good.
Yeah, far out, man. No, that's good. It's interesting that you say like you can feel that pressure of the 9 till 5 world just falling off, and the interest in or the need to sort of have to stay up to date with all the latest trends. What I've found since doing my own thing is I find it easier to be way more honest about what I really think about a lot of things. Like,
yeah,
obviously,
100%.
When we worked at church together, like there was plenty of things that I had to bite my tongue about because I was like, all right, Tush, you're a youth pastor. You can't really be saying that. And same was true with teaching. It's like you've constantly got someone breathing down your neck. I remember just a few years ago, I got pulled into the principal's office as a teacher because she was like, Tice, like I posted a photo of Jessie on my computer. And I said, I've just paid my wife off to do my admin for me. How about emails? And she's like, look, I get it. I know you're having fun. It's a little bit funny. We're a school. You're a teacher. You can't be doing that. I was like, oh, come on. Like, if you scroll a bit further down, there's a photo of my dog and my wife. It says me and my 2 bitches. You didn't have a problem with that one? Now, I love the freedom that comes with that because one thing that's been doing my head in, bro, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts about this. I'm actually keen to be educated on this, is you mentioned it earlier, the world of virtue signaling at the moment. It is so easy at the moment to put yourself in the right camp, so to speak, without ever having to contribute an ounce of energy or time just by posting the right photo. Like,
or updating your profile picture. Like, anyway, yeah, sorry, you go.
Classic. Like there's so many examples, whether it's the ribbon to say I'm vaccinated, you're welcome, whether it's the black square on your Instagram page, whether it's a rainbow flag back when we were voting in the plebiscite back in like 2017. It doesn't matter what it is. It's so easy for people to take some moral high ground without ever having to contribute an ounce of energy. And what did my head in most, and it's weird that you have to even like give the context, not because I don't think Black Lives Matter, like any reasonable person agrees with that, but the movement of Black Lives Matter where every AFL player had to take a knee before the start of an AFL game. I go, wait, what are we playing here? So I've got a theory and I want to run it by you because I think there should be a rule. And here's my rule. So it's about welcome to country. I messaged you about this the other day. Yeah. Every white guy is obsessed with this idea of a welcome to country at the moment. So if you're not from Australia, you're not familiar with it, the idea where you just recognize the traditional owners of the land. Beautiful. Obviously, Australia's got an interesting history with the way that we came to be a nation. Well, I can see how the tension arises, obviously. But the fact that we start every corporate meeting, the fact that we start every football game, the fact that we start podcast is what's doing my head in. A podcast I really enjoy. I won't throw them under the bus because they're actually a great podcast. But before each podcast now, they do a welcome to country where they say, okay, before we start, we'd like to recognize the traditional owners of this land, blah, blah, blah. I go, okay, I understand what you're doing. You feel guilty about your history, you feel guilty about your past. You're trying to make amends somehow. I reckon, though, it's too easy to do that. It's too easy just to say the words.
Yep.
There should be some requirement where if you do a welcome to country, that immediately signs you up to 6 weeks in the winter, volunteering in an Indigenous community, helping out with whether it's alcohol issues, domestic violence issues, whatever other issues. The idea of just saying words is too easy. We need to have some consequences for it because there's too many people taking that moral high ground of, hey, look what I said. And what did you do about it? No, nothing, but I care. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People
and
get
I
angry
actually think...
Yeah,
you go.
No, I was just going to say people get angry at me about asking these questions. But the truth is, the idea of you going to volunteer in an Indigenous community because you care, it's admirable to me. I go for it. The idea of you saying that you care about the traditional owners of the land and doing nothing about it is hypocritical to me. So I'm trying to get my head around that, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that can explain it, but for me, I've struggled to understand.
Well, and not to take this too biblical, but and I'm butchering it, but there's something in the Bible about not doing your deeds in public for everyone to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
That do them in private. Don't preach about them. Don't do it and go, look at me, look at me. It's more honourable to do the ones that it goes unnoticed. It's that, like, imagine if I did. I wouldn't want to, it's gross because I actually think it's selfish. That it's the same as your corporates doing Pride Month. It's a money grab. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people, I guarantee, genuinely care, and they do genuinely care. But as you said, it's so easy to change a profile picture to go, look at us, we're doing the right thing, buy our product. It's consumer-driven consumerism. And then I think we do it personally as well to get some sort of social credit from our, and especially when you're in a bubble and everybody's doing it, I bet it's got to feel like almost like survival, that I don't want to be in the firing line. And not that you get cancelled, but I don't want to be judged for doing the wrong thing. So it's all right, here's the scenario. What are you on? I'm on this one now. Okay, cool. Like, the one that really confused me is the women's football not doing the minute silence for the Queen.
Mm.
And I'm not having a go. I was just confused. I'm like, but the Queen and everything, yeah, colonization, shit, real bad. It's done. I can't change it though. But also, women's football, we're celebrating women's achievement. And I love that women's football is starting to kick off, pun intended. It's awesome. The Queen, strong female leader for a shit ton of time. That's awesome. Wait, we're not going to, but you're also about women's football and celebrating that and trying to promote that and get that on par with men. All for it. This other woman that was a leader, we're not going to, because so which one are we picking now? And I feel like we're continually, and I know Jordan Peterson's talk about that, we're continually slicing down to what micro thing it's going to be. And I feel like at the end of the day, everybody's going to lose. And I think it's that subconscious knowledge that at one point you're going to be the, how does he describe it? The oppressor and the oppressed. That at one point it's going to be, you're going to be the oppressed and you want to be that. So we're flipping it and celebrating every single oppressed person and thing. Yeah. And at some point you're going to be on the other side, whether you like it or not. And so for me, that WNFL one was one where I was just confused. I'm like, I get both points, but like, is celebrating one saying that you're not appreciative and respectful of the other? And it's that having to choose, I think, that stresses people out. And it's just like, I think that's hard because, and the minute you set the precedent, we've got to celebrate each thing. It's like, there was a period there where, like, in the men's football, every single week was a round. It's Indigenous round, it's Pride round, it's this round, it's that round. There's not enough rounds in the season to do everything.
Seriously, I'm still waiting for Christian round.
Right, like.
Do you know what? You know what the best part of the AFLW not doing a minute of silence for the Queen is?
What?
No one saw it. You can't say that. That's a joke.
When you said it, I'm like, oh, here's a joke coming. This is good. Let's see how we go.
No, that's horrific. That's horrific. I've got to be careful. Everybody. Yeah, you can't say that one in Brunswick. Oh man, you got to be careful as well, because as a bloke who writes programs for AFLW players, and you got to be careful. I'm joking. It's just anyway. Yeah, it's such a good point, man. It's so interesting. It's like my favorite.
Want to answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And my favorite example of this is BMW during Pride Month last year in Australia. They had the BMW with the rainbow flag up.
Yep.
But then in Abu Dhabi, it was just the BMW logo. Because it's like, just, hey, work with the customers.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because if they would, and again, it's doing the easy thing, not the needed thing. And if they were genuine about that, they would do it in Abu Dhabi and not give a flying F what that does to their brand, because they were genuinely committed to the cause. And that's 100% the test of whether a corporation or an individual is serious about it, is do they do the hard thing and the needed thing, not the easy thing that gets them the selfish, I got a little bit of social credit because I did that. I updated my profile. I did the right thing. I'm safe now. I'm not the
Yeah.
oppressor. Like I'm an ally. It's like, come
Yeah.
on, works.
That's a
What's the
good
actual
point.
work? What are you actually doing about it? Because otherwise, it's all just it's unfortunately hot air.
Oh, it infiltrates everywhere as well. Like I dropped Charlie off at daycare this morning, and the lady, lovely lady. She must be in her 60s. Lisa dropped him off, and what was she saying? She's like, "Oh, Jesse must be juicing." I was like, "Yeah, next couple of weeks we'll have a baby." Um, she goes, "Oh, little boy, little girl." I go, "It's going to be a little boy." She goes, "Oh, that's good. They'll be, a good age gap together. They'll be able to play the footy, blah, blah, blah. I've got a boy and a girl. So they can do a lot together. They can't do things like get their makeup and stuff done." She goes, "I probably shouldn't say that, should I? Like, I shouldn't say that. Like, you can't really say that." And I go, "Lise, it's fine. I know I'm on you. You don't have to. I'm not offended. I'm not offended on anyone's behalf. I know what you're trying to say. You don't have to. I know it's 2022 and we have to be cautious with these kind of things." And I said to him, I'm going to be very concerned if him and his brother want to go get their makeup done. And she goes, she's like, "No, as long as they're healthy, Tice. It's as long as they're healthy." And I'm like, "Of course." I came home to Jesse and I sort of,
Hey, you can't even say that anymore.
what's that?
Chris Pratt got in trouble for saying he had a healthy baby.
What do you mean? Who is Chris Pratt?
The actor Chris Pratt, Guardians of the Galaxy, Terminal List. Actor married to Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter.
Okay.
And when they had a kid, he tweeted, birth of, I think it was a girl, healthy mum, healthy baby. And he got slaughtered because I think with his first marriage, one of his kids wasn't 100% healthy. He's having a jab at his ex-wife. He can't. Is he saying that like unhealthy babies, that like people with a disability aren't like respected and he's ableist by that, and it just blew up. And it's just like, oh my gosh, are you saying that like being happy that your kid's healthy is therefore implying that you're what? What parent would not want their child to be healthy? What is wrong with that? But then you get crucified for saying that. What?
It's so strong. This is what I wonder as well. Like how many people are actually firing up about that? Because I rarely meet someone who agrees with that. Like I wonder how much of these is just purely that clickbait title where
Yep.
newspapers, they understand that a title like that is going to get our attention. It does, because I was listening to I think it was Andrew Huberman, is he a neuroscientist? I'm not a neurologist. I don't know. He speaks about your brain on a regular basis, and at Stanford Medical School. And he was saying that our favorite form, our favorite mindset, our favorite state to being is mild irritation, which was a surprise to me because I always just would have thought it was happy, content. He goes, no, based on people's choice of article, it's mild irritation is what they lean towards. And things like that are like mildly irritating. And I often wonder, because I'm like, I know a lot of people who would see that situation like me and you and go, what the hell? Like no one cares about that. But both the people who do care and the people who don't care click on that article because they're like, what's this? It's strange. It's strange just knowing what people believe and what's just trying to sell a newspaper.
It's confusing.
Anyway, what do we do?
So I cut you off before mid-thought.
Oh, no, I'm glad you cut me off. I ramble. That's the one thing I'm trying to fix on this podcast is
Just
I
say,
get
how you
halfway.
going having guests again? Mate, I love what you've been doing. Like I tip my non-existent hat to you. I've got so much mad respect that you're able to week in, week out. I pushed it out months ago. I'm like, I can't do two things at once. I'm just going to build this business, a podcast, and sorry guys, it can go get stuff. And you just soldier on, man. It's impressive. How do you do it?
Thanks, bro. Well, I think for me, the good thing is I have a couple of hours where I focus on my running business each day. It's really not a lot of maintenance in terms of like I've got a few athletes that I work with. I've got programs that I write. There's emails that I respond to. But I think if I dedicate 2.5 hours each day to my relaxed running world, that's more than enough. And that's what pays the bills. But 2.5 hours, it leaves like a whole heap of space free in the day. And that's what I love. Like my goal is just to have, I want the money to be able to support my projects. And it's the classic price of entry conversation, just to reference your old your podcast name. For me, like having the money so I can invest in like creative projects. And for me, in my mindset, this is a creative project. It's just an outlet.
Yeah.
I love talking to people like you. I love the conversation, and I love working out what I think. I love working out what's funny. I love working out what's not, as we've seen through some of the comments, or apparently. Yeah, so it's not even inspiring really, because it's just something I love. I look forward to doing. But I can imagine if it's, if you got your hands full with opening a freaking fully fledged whiskey bar, it'd be hard to try and maintain a podcast on top of that as well. I get it, but dude, I was as soon as I saw I think it was an Instagram photo or something that you posted, say, all right, it's been purchased, we're ready to go. And I know you said a lot of people have said this. I was like, oh, he knows exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Oh, and because you'd sort of flirted with the idea of, I remember you saying ages ago, like you'd flirted with the idea of starting a YouTube channel where, I think it was you, where you were looking at different beers or like the alcohol scene, that people scene, event organization. I was like, oh, could you get a better, combination of skills that a bloke needs to be good at than Brenda?
Yeah.
So it's crazy, man. Do you just feel like you've, despite the hard work, just landed on your feet?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's going to be more hard work. But I mean, the conversation came about. I mean, it's always been kicking around my head, doing my own thing, having a bar. But I think just the combination of opportunity from being in a financial position to be able to take the risk, being able to have the right space to take the opportunity and not forcing it. And, oh, wait, you're in the middle of nowhere, like a bad area. Even if it's a good idea, it's not going to work. It's going to work practically. And I think also a combination of experience. Having worked as a sales rep in the Yarra Valley for the last 18 months, I've seen a number of businesses do really well with people that have, all due respect, zero experience and are making it up as they go along openly. And they're still successful. And I'm like, wait, I've got the experience and the knowledge of that. And I know how to run a venue. I know how to hold a crowd, and 20 people capacity is nothing when compared to when you're used to hosting events with 1,500 people, and managing teams of however many. It's like, yeah, small bar with 3 people. Yeah, that's doable. And getting to that point. So, and then this shop came up the week after. I was sitting down with a mate and Kate and his wife as well, and conversation came up around, say you won the lottery tomorrow, but you still needed a job to just keep you occupied, keep your hands busy, and something that you just really love. What would that be? And I'm like, you know what? Just a small little bar on Main Street would be my jam. That'd be great. And the next week, this place popped up for lease. Opposite Hillsville Hotel, middle of Main Street, ton of foot traffic, 5 minutes from home, right size, right location. Oh, shit. Done. So just jumped in with both feet, went down to part-time. That job, that was a mistake. That was motivated by wanting that financial safety net. But the talk about price of entry, the strain to do a part-time job and build your own bar physically from scratch. When you got supply, both I thought naively that I could keep one as sort of just, this one will be Monday, Tuesday, like you, because I know you love like everything being in your hour. You do this part of your life here, you do this part of your life here, and I naively thought that I could do that with a job that I've been doing for 18 months. It's never been locked in. I have customers calling on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock because I got a problem. So it didn't end up being just locked into Monday, Tuesday doing the old job, and then do the bar the rest of the time. It was both simultaneously at full capacity, and it killed me. Like there was moments where I was like genuinely about to cry in the corner and just go, stuff it, I can't do this, I'm broken.
Dude.
Then threw my back out, got a sinus infection that was bad. And it's just like, oh, I should have just, instead of going for the financial safety and liking that part-time coming through, I should have gone, no, if I actually want to do this well, like we said earlier, not try and do both things at once and just that singular focus. But that's all right. That's all hindsight. It's 2020. It's all done now. We got here.
Dude, yeah, that's so
Full steam ahead.
crazy. It's so good, man. All your experience from the block came up handy.
Somebody mentioned that the other day as well. I'm like, let's not talk about it. It's too short anyway.
Was it? I don't remember the details. But it didn't last long on the block.
We did one episode with the old ex, and we were kicked off first round. Yes, we did the one. That's when they used to do, like, basically you're up against another couple. You do one room, 24 hours.
That's right.
Then, Yeah.
What year was that?
Yeah.
2013?
12, I reckon. I was
2012.
22.
That's so crazy, man.
Lifetime ago. I was a child.
It is weird. I look at 22-year-olds now and think the same thing. I'm like, how, like, but when you're 22, and mind you, I had someone say to me the other day, how old are you? I said 35. They go, oh, you're a baby. I was like, but I'm not. I'm 35. So it's funny how
And when I was a kid, that was like, you're basically retirement.
Seriously, if I ever saw a forehead like this when I was a kid, I go, what's going like this? I honestly remember I was at a surf shop. Yeah, I was at a surf shop. It's called Brother Nielsen in Western Australia. And I used to always say to my mum, when the guy like lifts his eyebrows, his forehead goes wrinkly. And I was like, oh, thank God I don't have that. And then every time I look surprised now, I'm like, oh no, you're that bloke. And I think he was 21, 22. Here we are. Anyway, bro, I'm pumped I'm really pumped to eventually. It's going to be a little while, I think, because obviously new little man coming into the world next week. But as soon as I can get down there, I'm going to be down there, man. It's going to be I can't wait to see it. I can't. So it's fully decked out, like it's done in terms of decor and stuff. Or are you still pottering away?
So the main front bar is done. So I managed to source railway sleepers from Hillsville Station. So they're 135-year-old sleepers from when it was first built back in 1880s.
Awesome.
Got like a wall made of this cladding that's charred timber, so it's not painted black. It's actually naturally black because they run it through like a giant pizza oven. Sick. I went over the top. So that area is done. Footpath trading, working on that with council. Beer garden is to be constructed out the back, and then like a private dining space in the middle of the venue. That used to be the kitchen. I'm going to turn that into a bit of a space where it's bookable, but also I want to put a little bit of infrastructure in there to be able to do video conferencing and podcasts. So like a mini podcast studio as well.
Dude, that's so
it's a great little space, can deck it out.
And what's the playlist? What's the music of choice? Sort of
blues.
Just yeah, good.
Think blues, Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, dude.
All that sort of just in the background. Great. Love it.
Oh,
had fun pulling the playlist together. It's good.
Oh, that is awesome. That's
Gary
so
Clark
good.
Jr., all that sort of stuff.
Man, I don't drink much, but it's one thing that just encourages me to, turn to alcohol.
The blues.
The blues. All right, brother. Dude, it's been long overdue, but thanks for making the time in what's been a crazy 24 hours for you. We'll do it again. All right, brother. Absolutely. I'll see you later. See you, everybody.
Bye.